The January 9th meeting of the County Planning Commission is hereby called to order.
The forest of Fangorn lies on our doorstep. Burn it.
This is not true. It's not anyone's intention on staff to perform landscape level modifications.
We've been inundated by emails this last week. And a very significant impression out in the world is that the county is going to, do this massive thing.
There's no proposal to do wholesale control burning throughout the county.
I beg to differ. In the report it says, and I quote, large chaparral expanses may need to be treated through controlled fire to restore health. The second thing, fuel treatments to break up large swaths of old class vegetation are possible. And then they talk about mosaics. Take it out of the report. They've had volumes, mountains of documents trying to explain to them it's not a difference of opinion, this whole mosaic philosophy. It's like comparing the Flat Earth Society to NASA.
We would like to identify methods of vegetation treatment that could provide for a reduction of fire threat based on science.
They indicated interest in obtaining scientific input.
From the science standpoint, I think the report still would so benefit from having good science behind it. There's only 6 references, most of which are a very incomplete set.
This report does not reflect the scientific knowledge that we do have. And there is a ton of empirical, solid, peer-reviewed science that's directly applicable, which is not cited or addressed in the report. And in many places, the report's assumptions and recommendations are directly at odds with that published scientific information.
Science and trust are incredibly important in this process, and unfortunately, after working with the Department of Planning and Land Use, neither one of those things are incorporated into this document, I'm sorry to say.
Okay, starting with those speakers in opposition, and there were no one speaking in favor. I thought was interesting of all the cards we have today.
The authors of this report don't understand the chaparral, the diversity, and the life it supports. They want to blame the victim, the natural environment, instead of working with the natural environment. They do this because they don't understand that houses burn just like chaparral. Don't put the houses in the chaparral. Simple solution. Infill building in San Diego. Don't drag the suburban sprawl out to the chaparral and say, oh my God, we have fuel out here.
We need a county fire department. Don't approve building homes in fire-prone areas. We need a lot more education on how homes can stand through a catastrophic fire. You're not going to stop the fires. Don't create bigger fires by introducing flammable foreign weeds. Let the wildlife roam. What kind of an environment are we going to have if we try to change everything that God created for us? What do you want? Stepford Wives? Are you old enough to remember that one?
You may hear today that the major solution for dealing with damage to structures due to fire is to harden the houses and to modify urban landscape requirements. We agree that those are part of the equation. However, based on the Board of Supervisors' direction, natural vegetation is our main area of focus today.
It's a few $100s to retrofit the vents on a house. It's a few $100s to do that. I think that was the primary cause of most of these fires on these homes. And if we had $1 million to spend on one of these treatment areas, or we just gave the money away and said, here's $1 million to retrofit the vents on these houses, which would be more effective in achieving our goals? I don't understand why we're so backwards in this. I guess we are because we've been crammed into a box that we shouldn't have been. And staff is only doing what staff can do. And we understand that, we appreciate that. Most of us have been here a long time, so we understand it. But that doesn't make it right. And it doesn't make it the responsible reaction of the commission to validate that. That is wrong.
Main thing that I agree with, that I heard a number of people speak on, that came out of those our subcommittee, was the focus on the wildland urban interface, the WUI, and I think that needs to be. I know it's in there, but how you phrase it, where you place it, what emphasis you put on it, because there was certainly consensus on that issue.
And I think that our job is to say that this is not ready. It's getting there. It's not comprehensive. The solution has to be comprehensive, or it's not a solution. It's not a solution. It's the responsibility of county government to find a solution to this problem. And this is not it. It's part of it, and it's almost there. So for us to say it's incomplete, but here it is anyway, I know what's going to happen when that comment gets to the board.
I want to talk about the effect of county policy in my neighborhood relative to the intent of the policy. And I think that's relevant because I think the same thing will happen with this kind of policy as far as burning, as far as destroying and so on, rather than focusing on the wildland-urban interface. I live in that interface. The intent of the policy by the county was to have defensible space. The effect has been that acres of native vegetation has been removed, and that now I'm looking at bare dirt and at weed lots. I don't feel safer. I am not safer. I think that the public is not getting a clear message. I know that I personally have taken action and have done the right things as far as well, the first thing is clearance, which is a really bad terminology in my opinion. But I've taken the appropriate action, and yet I repeatedly get abatement notices. And I'm repeatedly harassed and have to go through this whole process again and again while the weed lots are ignored, the dangerous vegetation, the structures that are not being modified because people are not getting the message. All of these things are, instead of increasing safety, are reducing safety.
People feel that if clearing 100 feet is good, clearing 500 feet is better. I see it all over the place in the backcountry. Nothing is stopping that. That's happening now. The cascade of negative impacts from that on steep slopes and you name it, impacts to communities, veg communities and habitats is just extreme. So there has to be some action that comes out of this that undoes that if there's agreement that that is a false assumption.
I'm not sure what we can do with this plan about insurance companies. We can make recommendations that fire clearing be appropriate to the situation.
No, let's stop right there. That is exactly the problem. You don't make a recommendation to an insurance company, which is this mindless bureaucracy that is dollars and cents, that fire clearing should be appropriate, because then they figure out what's appropriate.
The basics are this, which I think you've really started to hear. Vegetation management is effective at the interface, not in remote areas. We do need defensible space around structures. We do need to thin and clear in the conifer forests. And we need spatially limited fuel breaks strategically placed in the chaparral, rather than landscape level modification. And we don't need to treat the chaparral for its own ecosystem health. Those are the basics.
Did anything that was said here today change anything in this report?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Beck, there were a lot of pieces of information that were submitted to us beforehand. A lot of the things that were stated today, I think, were based on things that are not in the report or in perceptions that the report's going to do certain things. There are things that have been submitted, specifically the thing I passed out from Dr. Keeley. I think a number of those things are things that we can incorporate into the report. So yes, there are things that can be added to the report.
So thank you. I just wanted the Commission to know that after everything we've heard today, that any changes to the report that we received in the mail a week ago are going to be at the discretion of the staff, and they are going to, it's essentially going to be the same report. That's the report that's going up. I've got pages of things that I didn't get into.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Beck, we will attach all the materials we have and to the report.
Just for the point of the motion, I wanted to clarify that.
I don't think you can manage the chaparral. I think if you go out with a masticator, these are jewels. If you go out with a masticator, you're taking a hammer to a pile of diamonds. If you go out and burn it, you're torching art galleries. They don't look like a lot from the freeway, but they're amazing when you go out in them.